This week on One Crazy Story, comedian Mark Poolos joins me to talk about why it sucks to work in Canada.
This guy is telling me I have to leave Canada and go back to America. And she's like, don't take that.
Why? Yeah.
I go, don't take that? What?
What kind of Border Patrol do you know?
Probably about from like 2003 to like 2007, I would go to Canada for like almost a month or two, and I would do tours up there. And every time I tried to cross the border, it was always a problem. Like there was something that was always wrong because there was a constant fight between the entertainment groups in Canada and the Border Patrol because the way that the laws are set up in Canada, you have to have a work permit to work in Canada if you're working in a place that isn't always a comedy club.
Yeah, it's a weird, weird crossover.
Like, let's say you're going to work at, like, I don't know, the Comedy Cave or something in Calgary. You don't need a work permit for that because they do comedy and that's it. That's all they do. Like, there's not like on Sundays it's just a restaurant or just Fridays it's a bar. So you don't need a work permit. But what happens when I was working for this other company is 90% of it was that type of shit where it was a comedy club and that's it. And then you'd have like 6 or 7 one-nighters where you would work in bars. So that immediately would make it that you need the work permit. So every time I would go to the border, and the stupid part was the work permit was like $150.
Yeah, so it costs you money just to work.
So I was like, just get me the work permit. Like, I don't care. I just don't want to have to deal with the border. And it got more and more crazy every time I went up there to this one time, and it was just ridiculous. So I was calling the people up there. I'm like, hey, I'm coming across the border. Make sure my work permit's all, whatever.
Right. So you're like prepared. You're like, I got this.
And they go, everything's fine. Just tell them that you're working for Yuck Yucks.
Yeah.
And I go, oh, God.
Because as soon as you say comedy club, they're like, a bell goes off.
Well, like a shit ton, because there's like 3 main border crossings. Yeah. There's Vancouver, there's just above Helena, Montana, and then the one that's just above Grand Forks on this side.
Which is where you were going through?
I was actually going through the one in Montana because in my brain I was like, the further I can get in America before I have to cross the border, if there's a problem, like the less distance I would have to go. However, after this incident, I will never cross that border crossing ever again. I go through the one above Grand Forks, and it's been no problems whatsoever. So I got up there, and I said Yuck Yucks, and they were like, let me see your work permit. And I was like, it should be on file. I gave my passport, and they're like, there's nothing in the system. You have to come inside. And the other thing is, like, if you're selling merchandise in Canada, you have to pay to bring it into Canada. Yeah. It's called a duty.
And you don't even know if you're going to sell any yet.
Which is the shittiest part. Because the law says that you have to pay on what you anticipate to make on it. So you have to do that math.
So you're just like, I don't sell any. I'm lucky if I sell one.
Well, that's what I say.
I have no problem not paying shit.
I would ballpark it at what I paid for it, not what I was going to sell it. So I'm buying them for $6 a piece.
Right.
I would give them that price, and I'd usually have to pay like $30 or $40 in duty or whatever.
Yeah, it's not the worst, but still shitty.
It sucked.
Yeah.
So subsequent times after that, I put it all in my trunk and said I wasn't selling anything and just drove on through.
Oh, I forgot about these 400 t-shirts.
So, I am really fucking lucky that they did not go in my trunk because I would have been in a lot of trouble. But so I get up there, I come inside, and the guy goes, we don't have a work permit on file. And I said, hang on a sec. So I go and I call and I go, listen, they don't have a work permit. And they're like, yeah, well, we didn't submit one because you don't need one. And I'm like, yes, I need one. And I come back over to the desk and I go, they say I don't need one. And the guy literally goes, you're working in the Blarney Stone? That's in Lethbridge, which is 11 miles from here. I know that's a bar.
Right.
Right there, you need the work permit.
Right.
So I call him back and I go, they pointed out Lethbridge and they said that I'm going to be doing that gig, so I need a work permit.
God, that's so annoying. And they make it your problem.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh
just
my
give
God.
them the work permit.
So they're like, all right, we'll take care of it. So
Yeah.
I go back, and I said, they're going to take care of it. And he goes, well, sir, a work permit takes 9 months to process. So if they haven't filed the paperwork yet, you're not coming to Canada. So take care. And he hands me my passport back, and I go, what do you mean take care?
Yeah.
And he goes, take care. Go away. You go back to America.
Mm-hmm.
I go, what? And then I walked outside, and I called him, and I go, this guy is telling me I have to leave Canada and go back to America. And she's like, don't take that.
What? Yeah.
I go, don't take that? What?
What kind of border patrol do you know? Like,
So I
she said I have to come.
Yeah. So I got my car and I drove back across the border, and I went to the small town that was just past there. It was maybe like 50 miles or so. It's Great Falls, Montana.
Okay.
So I call them again, and I go, I had to come back to America. They're not going to let me in without a work permit. She's like, I'll have it taken care of by 5 o'clock tomorrow. She's like, you're just going to have to figure out a place to stay in Great Falls.
Yeah.
So I got a room at the hotel, and it was like, I don't know, $70, $80. I was like, this is just a fucking nightmare. So I literally spent the entire next day in Great Falls, and at 5 o'clock, I was supposed to be in like British Columbia or something doing a show that night.
Damn.
So at 5 o'clock, she calls me on the phone, and she goes, it's all been taken care of. They have a work permit. Just go back to the border. And the whole time I'm driving up to the border, I'm like, please just don't be the same guy.
Right.
You know, just be somebody else. I walk in, and it's the same fucking guy. You cannot believe it.
And he's just like, the look on his face when
And
Mark
he just
Poolos walked in the door.
He just crosses his arms, and he goes, look who's back. He goes, I thought I was pretty clear yesterday. And I go, I don't know how it works or whatever,
Right.
but she figured it out, and the work permit's in there. So he takes my passport, and he's like, sit down. And I'm like, all right. So I'm just sitting there. I sat there for like 3 hours.
Jesus.
And they're just like messing with me and
Yeah, they're just
looking at me and looking at my passport and looking at me. And I'm like, so finally, after 3 hours, the guy comes back up, and he goes, I don't know how they pulled it off, but he goes, this is like some kind of a temporary one that's going to last for 3 days.
Right.
So you have to come back here in 3 days and sign the real one that'll be ready in 3 days. And I was like, all right. So literally, like, the border crossing from Calgary, where I was going to be staying after my week, it's like a 2-hour drive. So it's like a 4-hour round trip drive. Wow. So they finally let me in. I drive all the way to the gig. I missed the Thursday. They prorated my pay because I missed it.
Yeah, because it's your fault.
So the guy that I was working with had flown in, and I was supposed to be driving him back to Calgary. But what was supposed to happen was I was supposed to drive to Calgary first and drop off my shirt boxes so I would have room in my car for this guy. So obviously I didn't have time, so I had to drive to Kelowna or wherever it was. This guy has like 3 suitcases.
Jesus.
He's like a giant dude, like a giant black man. And I'm driving at the time a 2005 Hyundai Accord hatchback.
How do you sit in there comfortably?
Oh, it was ridiculous. I had the seat so far back, I felt like I was
You're
in
like
the back
Shaq.
seat. Yeah. So we jam all of him and all of his shit into the car. And now we've got ourselves a 7-hour drive back to Calgary over the Colorado Rockies. It was just a brutal time.
Yeah. Sounds not fun at all.
So I get back, and just luckily, it turned out that I was going to be doing Lethbridge 3 days after. So we went early, me and the other comic, and we drove down to the border crossing, and the guy goes, we'll take care of it here in a second. So I sat there, and apparently there was 2 truck drivers there that had been stuck at the border for like, I don't know, like 6 hours. And they were just giving a bunch of shit that their paperwork wasn't in order or whatever.
Wow.
So the guy comes up to the counter, and he goes, listen, we are really trying to work with you guys here. We're trying to contact the people that you're with. We're trying to contact this. he goes, you're going to have to bear with us. And he's like, we've been here for 6 hours. And the guy's like, I understand. He's like, I don't know why your people aren't calling us back, but he's like, we're trying to give you the courtesy of not just turning you around or whatever. So for some reason, this guy thought, like, when you come from America into Canada, the people you're dealing with are Canadians. And when you come from Canada into America, you're dealing with Americans. So he's coming from America into Canada, so all the people in there are Canadian. And he thinks they're American. I don't know why. They're all wearing fucking maple leaves on their shirts. So the guy's like, we'll see what we can do. And the guy turns around, and louder than I've heard anybody, he just goes, fuck you, Canada. He just stands there. And the guy goes, what did you just say, sir?
Wow.
And he goes, nothing, I'm just blowing off some steam. He goes, can I see those passports again? And they give him the passports, and he threw them in the trash can and walked away.
Oh, man.
And that's when I got called up, and I signed my paperwork, and I was finished. But
I would have loved to be an audience member for this experience.
So I'm driving from Edmonton back to America at the end of the tour. And there's a giant ice storm that's coming in. So I'm trying to get ahead of it.
Just
so
what you need is some shitty weather.
Yeah. I'm like, 19-hour drive home and an ice storm. That sounds like fun. So I look at my map, and I look at the weather pattern, and it's like really north. So I'm like, if I can get as far south as possible, maybe I can get through it and underneath it, and I won't have to deal with it. So I left Edmonton, and I just started going south. Like wherever it said south, I just kept going south, 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 south. So I hit the border at like the smallest town possible. And it was like 3 a.m. And I pull up. I got all these fucking boxes in the back of my car. It's like 3 a.m. I'm trying to cross at a small town. Just way too many red flags. These border guys are like, get out of the car.
Wow.
Go in this building and sit in that room. And it was like a room with just blank white walls and a chair.
Yeah, and you're just trying to get home. You got all your shit in your car.
And it was around the time that I was selling the single mom shit.
Yeah.
You know, the SMILF shirts. So SMILF is just single mom I'd like to find. Anyways, it was something stupid that I came up with. And
it's a great shirt.
It caught on. You know?
Yeah, what was the joke, though? You get snacks after? Is that what it was?
Yeah, it was that I would date single moms because they had, it was always porn snacks. Star sex and kick-ass snacks.
I love that.
I'm a fat guy and I like to eat.
Well, who doesn't?
Yeah. So they, you'd go down in the middle of the night and just fucking load up on Swizzlers and Jolly Ranchers and just two-fist and ho-hos. It was a great joke, yeah. Yeah,
that's great. I love it.
Now I'm, married to a beautiful woman. Can't do those jokes anymore because it doesn't, it's disrespectful.
Yeah. So you had just a ton of these SMILF shirts.
Shit ton of SMILF shirts in the back of my car.
How do you explain this?
I'm sitting in this room with no windows, just a chair, and I sat there for like an hour. Just nothing happened in an hour. And then after like about an hour, the door started jingling and it unlocked and a guy walks in, or he kind of just peeks half his body in.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know what's going to happen. Like they're going to throw me in jail or whatever. And the guy goes, I know what a MILF is, but what's a SMILF? And I go, it's a single mom I'd like to fuck. And he went, oh, shit. That's good. That's good. And then shuts the door and locks it. Yeah. And I was in that room for another like hour and a half.
Just like, clearly they're working hard out there. Oh, you're kind of funny.
So they finally finished up. I went out there and like every part of my car was upside down. Like they pulled out the glove compartment, like everything in my backpack, all my suitcase, the trunk, the boxes, everything was just all fucked up.
For nothing.
Yeah, for nothing. I wasn't a drug mule or anything. I was just trying to get the fuck home.
What kind of drug dealer carries SMILF shirts?
Yeah,
in surplus,
in Gildan boxes. Yeah, nah, I'm not. I'm just a fancy T-shirt salesman. It'd be a good cover,
That would be great, man.
A drug mule comedian.
Listen up, you drug dealers out there.
Just hide your drugs inside rolled up SMILF shirts.
Yes,
nobody'll bother you. So that's my crazy story.
Thank you for being here, Mark Poolos. All right, that's all for this week. Thanks for listening. If you like Mark, make sure you go to facebook.com/largedrunkman to follow him there and find out where he'll be performing at next. Or you can listen to his podcast at largedrunkman.podbean.com. Also, follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/NateComedy or twitter.com/OneCrazyStory. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed it.